don't put the kids in a position where you force them to like your new partner. Give them permission to not like their new partner. It would make life a hell of a lot easier, wouldn't it, if everyone did love one another and liked one another and got on. But it's not necessary for a step family to be successful in that way.
Hello and welcome to Separate Bathrooms. We would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation that we are recording on today, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to the elders, both past and present.
My name's Brahe-Daddo.
I'm Daddo.
And, you can pretty safely say today's society is complicated. We live in a super fast-paced world that seems to multiply faster than we can comprehend. Life throws up challenges for us as individuals, couples, and for families that can undo us as fast as they come up. We hear a lot about divorce and separation rates, family conflict, and ultimately family breakdowns.
Exactly. Today in the bathroom, we're going to talk to a fabulous lady. Her name's Rachel Brace. She's a registered psychologist and co-creator and founder of Stepping Through. It's an educational and support web-based resource for step parents and their partners. So she's going to share a lot with us today about what step parenting looks like, the do's, the don'ts, how you can support your children, blended families we're going to ask her about as well.
Let's get to know Rachel Brace. Rachel Brace, welcome to the bathroom. How are you?
Oh, I'm not too bad. It's a sunny Friday. I'm here and not in the office. Couldn't be better.
Isn't it nice that we've got a bit of sun today? It actually was warm outside.
It was definitely warm. I feel like I'm overdressed in this wind sheeter.
I know. It's like, what is this sunshine?
Now, we're talking with Rachel. This is a really interesting subject. I want to know how you became interested in this line of work.
Oh, I worked in child protection for an exceptionally long time in various places around the globe. And when I came to Australia about 20 odd years ago, I somehow ended up working in not only child protection, but family court and high conflict separation and divorces. And that kind of led, the next step was working then with step families, because once people divorce, they quite often repartner. And there's a whole, area that's now being recognised of needing support and validation. And I just kind of got into it.
Right. And you made it all the way across from the south of the United States. From your accent, that's a joke.
I was thinking, United States? Hang on a minute.
Confused me too. I
have no geographical skills whatsoever. So the moment you brought direction into it, I was lost.
Accents are my thing.
South of the United States, that's Mexico.
Well, I was just trying to throw something in. Actually, I didn't. Maybe it was I meant to say the deep south of America.
The deep south.
The deep south. No, because you came here from New Zealand, obviously.
Yeah, via the UK, as most young people do. Yeah, those OAE experiences that people used to have. I don't know if they still have them.
Yeah.
You, in your line of work, you must have dealt with some incredibly painful experiences of children. I mean, just even talking about child protection, I mean, you must have seen some amazingly heartbreaking things. How did you travel through that and keep your mental health in a good place?
I think, there's ups and there's downs. There are times where probably you don't keep it as together as other times. And I think with age and experience, you kind of get better boundaries and you learn how to be able to leave things in the office or leave them on your phone. Or good glass of wine always helps, every now and again. And it's heavy going. I don't think people can remain on the front line working in those areas, although for their whole life. But certainly those that can, I'm super amazed. Like, I'm taking a step back now and not necessarily doing lots of hands-on hard yards. Yeah, leave that for the younger folks. But I think it's one of those things, resilience either happens or it doesn't, and you get out and you go and do something else.
Right.
Yeah. Someone told me a great tool once of not bringing your work home was to have a tree out the front that you can hang your metaphoric worries on the branches of the tree before you walk in the door.
Yeah.
We call it a worry tree. It's like get to the front door, take a big deep breath, and literally take whatever it is that you've had during the day, take it off, hang it on the tree, let it air out overnight.
I like it.
And you walk back out, you pick it back up again, and off you go, but it's had an airing under the moon.
Yeah. A hot shower can do the same thing. My husband quite often can tell how bad a day or, I'm having by the length of the hot shower.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That metaphorical, I think, just washing it off. All away.
Absolutely. Salt water's a good one too.
Oh, salt water. I find
Yeah.
freezing cold salt water, which we've just been through all winter. It's been the best thing.
Yeah.
No wetsuit, just jump in there.
You've got divorce rates climbing. We always hear about that. And therefore divorce means also step parenting. Not always, but often. Firstly, the impact of divorce on children, how significant is it?
I think we can't get around that divorce is an adverse event for kids. The level of adversity that kids will experience when their families are going through divorce or their parents are going through divorce and their families are changing really depends on the behaviour of the adults involved.
Yep.
And it depends on how well the parents are managing their conflict or not managing it. And I guess some of those other factors, extended family members, their part. That tribal warfare can sometimes play a unhelpful part, or certainly from kids' perspective, because it's grief and loss, and that's hard for adults to deal with. It's hard for kids to deal with, and you can't not go through that when families are changing. So it really does come down to the behaviour of the parents.
Yeah.
Is there? I'm sure there are tools. Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin made that comment about friendly uncoupling.
That conscious uncoupling, wasn't it?
Conscious uncoupling, was it? Are there ways to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it takes a lot of maturity.
Yeah.
I think it takes parents to be able to recognise what's happening for themselves and their own emotions and to be able to deal with them away from the children. So they don't have to pretend that they're happy about the divorce or that they're not sad or they're not angry, but they need to be able to manage those emotions separately from their kids and I guess be able to recognise that their kids might be feeling different feelings or the same feeling for a different reason and to be able to show their kids, the right way of dealing with those feelings. So that might involve therapy. It might involve doing a post-separation parenting course. It might involve using your girlfriends or your boyfriends or your circle of friends and dealing with that when the kids aren't around. Go to the gym. Go for a swim. Find other ways to deal with it so that you're not involving the children in that.
Yeah. And of course, look, it happens. People get divorced for often really good reasons that they need to be divorced. And often, you're in pain yourself as an adult going through divorce, and sometimes the children don't. It's not that they're not getting considered, but perhaps the parents might be missing some signs that the children are in distress. Yeah. What are some of the signs that children do show when they are having a really rough time with what's going on with mum and dad?
I think it can be all those usual signs when they're having a rough time just with life or with general, or if they're tired or they're hungry. They might, notice changes in their personalities. They might be a little bit more teary for no obvious reason. That like it's not their brother has just taken their truck or something, and there's an obvious reason to be upset. But they might be a bit more distant. They might seek more reassurance from parents. They might want more cuddles. They might protest a parent's departure from a room or more readily. They might have problems sleeping or nightmares, or that they may, for teenagers as well, start to do that separation from parents and start to hide in their rooms more than what you might expect for a 14 or 15-year-old.
Yeah. Hard to go through. That's hard to go through without a separation or, a step-parent situation. And so it's difficult to know if it's more or less. Is this a heightened experience or is this normal, because we all do it as teenagers. Yes. Everyone, when we go through teenagehood, we do our own separation.
Absolutely. It's part of the role of being a teenager is to find yourself and to become an independent person. But it is hard depending on the different age groups, I guess, is there's different things to look for.
And I don't think it's any easier at any specific age, do you? Like, it's going to be hard on a 3-year-old and hard on a 13-year-old.
Yeah, it's hard in different ways.
Yeah.
So I don't think, and there's no normal way to go through a divorce or your parent repartnering or changes to your family. But there are different things at different developmental stages that parents and their new partners maybe need to be more mindful of.
Right. Yeah, good point.
Lots of movies around step parents. You got the midday Hallmark movies. There's always a stepfather or the wicked.
You played one of those roles.
I'm sure I did. I played the boyfriend of a
I think you have.
of a step daughter.
Lifetime movie.
It's just awful, but hey, paid the bills, didn't it?
Yeah, got to take what you can get.
Mate, it's all right. And of course those horror movies, the stepfather movies.
Yeah.
How can a new step parent best approach forming a relationship with their stepchild?
Slowly.
Slowly.
Slowly. And I think in those early stages, getting as much information as possible about the stages of step family development, being, forewarned is forearmed. I'm sure there's a saying, something along that.
But right.
So getting information, because there is a lot of really good evidence-based information out there about how step families come to be and the different stages of development that they go through. There is a lot more supports out there for step parents as well. Staying away from the dodgy evil stepmum movie is probably a really, really healthy thing to do. And keeping your sense of who you are, so still finding time you're not just a step mum, you're not just a step parent.
Yeah.
You're still all those things that you were before that, but it can get really easy to get really lost in that new situation that you're involved in.
Yeah, because you're trying to, or you're having a relationship with your partner, and then you've got these children that they love so much.
Yeah.
And you want their validation, or I'm sure respect as well.
Yep.
All those things that go along with it, and so there's a bunch of eggshells, isn't there?
Oh, and then I think a lot of the time, what an important point that is overlooked is if you are a step mum and you're entering into that kind of role, there's another parent
That's right.
that might not like you and might have a vested interest in your relationship failing, but has a say in what's going on in your household. And that is a really, really challenging thing to get your head around, but to also kind of cope with in situations where you have very little say in the raising of the children in those early stages, or you should have little say because you don't have the relationship to back that up.
So you let it go, or one of my best mates has got two families. He's not secret, hasn't had a secretive family, but he's got kids, and he'll often talk about the stepdad as being he doesn't have a lot great things to say about him. Says he's lazy and whatever, and blah. And he goes, but I've got to step back. But I said, so what do you do when your kids go there? They go there for a week and then they come back to you.
And there's different sets of rules.
Absolutely.
That's a very common thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
what do you say to those people? Do you? I know it's quicker than this conversation, but are there some takeaways to? What do you say to them?
I think one of the takeaways is ultimately, if you gotta focus on what you can control. You got to focus on your circle of control, because that's what you can actually do something about. So it may be if the rules are significantly different, that's a conversation for the biological parents to be having. Now that's not easy. I'm not, and that might need it might not go anywhere, but they need to be able to deal with that. I guess then in your home, you got to focus on your feelings and your reactions to what's happening in the other home and not let that colour how you're parenting or raising the children in your home. And sometimes you do just got to do a frozen and let it go.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Unless it's so significant for you that you can't or you believe it's placing the children at risk. And then there's other steps that you might need to take. But if you could get your ex-partner to do what you wanted to do, it would have been when you were together and loved up. Now that you're separated, they're going to go and do their own thing, and you'll waste a lot of time and energy and heart trying to manage that.
We had someone say just the other day on the podcast, Kath Mahoney, she was talking about how what really helped her is someone said to her, remember that your son is going to the other person that loves him as much as you love him. Even though it's different rules, but remember that first and foremost, he loves him as much as you love him.
Yes.
And to hold on to that.
Yes.
So that's something that I think was really beautiful when she said that. I remember we have a friend of ours in LA and she got divorced and her kids were younger, to a boy and a girl, and she remarried, and I said, how did this come about, that you met each other? And, she said, it was the children that told me to marry him. So they knew that they were in love and they took it so slowly. They introduced him at like drip feeds.
Great
to
story.
the point, right? To the point where the kids were like, Mum, can you have him over more? Mum, can he come with us? Mum, can you please marry him? So it came from them.
Yeah.
I just thought, isn't that beautiful? And I know everyone can't always do that, but they were so careful and conscious about it.
It was well over 12 months.
Oh, it was years. It was years.
Years?
Yeah, it was years. Yeah.
He's a terrific bloke.
Yeah.
He was a woodworker, made his own guitars and things. So he was just this pal.
Yeah.
That came over and they were like 5 and 6,
they were
weren't
little,
they? And then they grew into you're right, because it was when later on they were almost 10 or something. They're like, you got to marry him.
Yeah.
Right? That's a long time, between 5 and 10.
Yes.
You take it slow. You follow the children's lead.
Yes. Right.
I think you also don't put the kids in a position where you force them to like your new partner. Give them permission to not like their new partner. It's okay if you don't like this person, but you do need to be polite and respectful and all of those two things.
So that was sort of leading into the next question too, about what I'll juxtapose to the kids liking you as the stepfather or stepmom. What if they don't?
That's okay. It absolutely is okay. For the parent, I mean, you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because you love your partner, you love your kids. It would make life a hell of a lot easier, wouldn't it, if everyone did love one another and liked one another and got on. But it's not necessary for a step family to be successful in that way. Children in that situation, and it does depend a little bit about what their other parent's attitude is to the situation, but, they can experience loyalty binds and it can make it difficult for them to accept a step-parent.
Yeah.
Giving them permission not to like that person can free them up a little bit, takes the pressure off them. And as long as they're being polite and respectful, you can then do activities on a drip feed kind of basis. They can start to build their own personal experiences with that person, and maybe, hopefully, down the track, fondness and affection can come.
Yeah.
Bit the same as like a Brady Bunch blending of kids too, right? If the step kids don't get along, if you're blending two families, that must be pretty.
Yeah, what do you do then if the kids don't get along?
I think that is a trickier situation to manage, but it does depend on the parenting arrangement in place in the schedule. I think, again, it's recognising that they don't get on, creating opportunities for them to have some shared experiences, but also making sure that they do get some one-on-one time with their biological parent, maybe some one-on-one time with the step-parent, the partner, creating spaces so they've got their individual spaces in the home that they can retreat to when they need a little bit of space. And recognising that not all personalities and temperaments get on. If you've got an introverted kid and your partner's got an exceptionally extroverted kid who is into everything under the sun, in the real world we wouldn't expect them to maybe gravitate to one another. So maybe lowering some expectations about where that's going.
I mean, biological siblings sometimes don't get along, right? So you can't expect that all of a sudden these two strangers come together and
with
are
no
best
shared
friends.
history.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we learn conflict resolution skills, right? At a very early age is with our siblings. And managing differences. So, it's not the end of the world. It can make life harder. And certainly for parents, I mean, you just want everyone you love to kind of get on.
Yeah. I've been a bit fixated lately on the word expectations.
Okay.
And just going, what are my expectations around work, around relationship with kids, with friends, with Elle, with, and I just feel like I just would like to eradicate all expectations from my life. And then you mentioned expectations, then managing expectations. Would you agree with that in terms of, just have a sit down, jot down your expectations and then temper them or...
Yeah. And they're not fixed. Like even you can have low expectations about a lot of things, but the level of that lowness is still adjustable.
Yeah.
Say if you've got kids who are moving between two homes, have low expectations of them when they're coming back into your home on a Sunday night after not having been with you for a week or 3 or 4 days. That's the time when your expectations should be really low, right? But maybe on the Tuesday or the Wednesday after they've been with you for a couple of days and kind of settled into the rhythms and routine of your home or their home with you, your expectations might be slightly different. Still low if that's going to work for you, but slightly different. So I think expectations don't have to be fixed and they shouldn't be fixed. They've got to adjust to the situation. So if low's working for you at the moment, go for it.
Yeah. And I think about, too, like future relationship, with your child, when they move out of home, when they're adults, like if you've been able to maintain the dignity as a parent of not, saying harsh words about who your other ex-husband, ex-wife is with, about their kids, about, if you've been respectful about that, the child eventually knows that about you and really respects that about you as well as that, so as hard as it might be to sort of, if you're in pain as the one that perhaps has been left, and that your husband's gone off with another woman, if you don't say anything about that other woman, if you can maintain it and, as you say, speak about it with your girlfriends, in the pillow, whatever, but it means it's so much more meaningful to that child and your relationship at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I think, look, kids are smart. Kids are perceptive. But when you put your feelings about that new person onto your children, all you're doing is harming your children. It puts them in, how are they meant to manage that when then they go to their, say, dad's place and their dad expects them to like this woman? So they either have to do what their dad does and betray their mum, or they have to dislike this person. Because that's what they think their mum wants them to do, and then they're betraying their dad. I mean, that is a really crappy position for a child to be in, where they have to let one of their parents down. And I think sometimes as grown-ups we kind of forget that these kids, they love both their parents, warts and all. I mean, that's the beauty of kids, right? They love you when you're at your worst, and they love you when you're at the best. So, yeah.
You've written, we've got 2 books in front of us. One's called Harriet's Expanding Heart and the other one's called Max's Divorce Earthquake. Tell us what are in these books.
Well, the first one, Max's Divorce Earthquake, is just about a little boy and his world is turned upside down, much like an earthquake when his mum and dad separate. And it's just talking about all the emotions that he feels as his world turns topsy-turvy and he's adjusting to all the changes that brings. And then obviously, like all earthquakes, runs out of steam and his world becomes a little bit more stable and settled, and he's moving between his 2 worlds. And then the second one, I guess, is similar. It's about the emotional language and the emotional journey of Harriet when one of her parents repartners. Following a separation, and her adjusting to a stepmum being on the scene and all of her worries and thoughts and concerns about that change.
It's so beautiful.
You, Elle, were reading the book before we press record on this chat, and you said I'm getting all teary. And I'm like, hang on, hold the tears for the podcast. What was going on?
Well, I just looked at the back of the book, but in Max's Divorce Earthquake, it says, it's just so beautiful. It was where was it? Oh, here. It's Rachel's written, as scary as they feel, divorce earthquakes can't keep going forever. They run out of energy. Eventually, the ground beneath Max stopped shaking. His feet found their balance. His heart stopped pounding. Max realized even though his family no longer lived together, he and his sister could never lose his parents' love and care. It's just so beautiful and kind, and just the words that, a little one needs to know, and parents need to know.
Yeah.
And then you've got this beautiful tips about how parents can emotionally support their children during parental separation and divorce, like all these tips at the back. It's just such a beautiful thing to put out in the world, because we learn so much through books. And, we're with the Rudolf Steiner education, which our kids grew up in and I work in, it's very much when one child is going through something in the classroom, it's very much we tell a healing story for the whole class.
Yeah.
So it's not pointed, but it's hopefully going to hit that child, but it's not like this big thing, all spotlight on this one child. And so everyone takes from it what they will. And so that's what I see in your books, that you've done the same thing. So thank you for putting them out into the world.
Yeah, I mean, kids need to give meaning to their experiences just like what we do, and stories and books are one way of doing that, to help kids make sense of not only what they're going through, but what they're feeling in response to what they're going through.
Yeah.
They just don't have the vocabulary that us as adults have. So we do need to teach them the language. We need them to recognise the body cues and then to be able to put words to that. That also then helps their parents and their carers and their teachers know what they need in that moment in terms of reassurance and care and love and guidance. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in books and stories and using that to help children develop a level of emotional intelligence and to their emotional well-being.
Are these books on tape?
No. I don't.
I think you've got a reader right there.
There we go. Absolutely.
Right through the
She's
whole
right
thing.
there. What's the best part about your job? What do you love about your job?
You know what? I love meeting kids and I love meeting families and I love seeing them going through, this sounds awful, but I don't like seeing them go through something awful, but I like seeing how they get through it and then they find their feet and they figure it out. And I see people when they first come to me at their absolute worst. No one's ever at their best when they're going through something awful.
Yeah.
And then you see people find their feet, or you see them develop ways to get through the darkness and kind of get through to the other side. And seeing kids find a way to be able to talk about their experiences and to let their parents know what they need. I really enjoy that kind of stuff.
And what do you see on the positive side, like in the sense of, step parenting or children going into blended families? What are the positive outcomes that you often see with families in that sense?
Kids can never have too many people to love and care about them.
No.
So I think, when it works, and seeing an example of a healthy relationship can be fabulous for kids. Just different experiences being brought into their life is also a bonus. I think just knowing that they can get through hard stuff and then there's good stuff on the other side is also a bonus, or it's something that kids can learn from and value. Just the stability of family.
Is it a good idea, if it's possible, say if the divorced parents are actually still good friends but they've gone off with their own partners, is it still good for the child if they still get together for Christmases and birthdays? Is that something that works for the child, or is it?
It can work for kids if the parents want it, are comfortable with it, and can make it work. But kids don't necessarily need that to have a wonderful life and a healthy sense of family. But, you do see kids who that's what they want, and they never stop yearning for that and wanting it. But then you do have those things like graduations, where the families both their families and both their parents and extended families are going to come together quite naturally. Weddings, 21sts, other big milestones.
Yeah.
So those types of things are quite a natural experience to have everyone you love celebrating you or what you're going through. Christmas, it's chaotic at the best of times. And I think ultimately, while some kids might enjoy that, actually a lot of kids might enjoy that, if it's awkward and uncomfortable for the adults, it doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
Take the pressure off.
What are some of the tools that, I mean, I'm sure we've got people in various stages of step parenting deep in it, about impending or, you know, where they're at. What are some of the tools that are available for them to get more information, you know, and also to navigate their way through? You mentioned therapy before, things like that.
I think there are a couple of really good books out there. There's one that I really enjoy by Patricia Papernow and Karen Burnell called The Step Family Handbook. And I've actually got it in my handbag. But
I'm sure it's dog-eared and
yeah, pretty much.
up.
But it is actually written for the general population and for professionals as well. But it's the language, common sense, practical advice about navigating every step of the step couple relationship to introducing to your kids and to what happens next beyond that. There's a lady in Perth, Carleen. Now I always pronounce her surname wrong. Katsa Bananas. I have so pronounced that wrong. It's a Greek name. But she's written a book called Step Parenting with Purpose.
Well, you got that bit right.
I got that bit right.
Google that, Step Parenting with Purpose.
There's a fabulous lady in Brisbane, Dr. Kate Owen. She has a lot of information about step family functioning and blogs and that type of stuff. A lot of Americans got into the whole step family thing really early. And there is so many podcasts and so many resources out there. Two that I can recommend are Claudette Chevanet, the Step Mum Coach, and Jamie Scrimmager, who does a podcast called the Kick-Ass Step Mum Podcast. So there's things like that out there that you can look at. There's a lot of Instagram options. The only thing that I say is the helpful ones are evidence-based, they're solution-focused, they're not just talking or bitching about the ex-partner or the things that are going wrong. I think that can be quite a negative spiral to get into, but you do want support groups like that. And there are also various online programs run by places like Relationships Australia and various other organisations like that are short weekend courses to help step parents and their partners maybe learn some new skills or normalise what they're going through. Sometimes you just need to know you're not the only one.
Yeah, that's right.
It does help, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing that, because you can go inside your own brain, you can be going, oh boy, you know, it gets dark and lonely in there. But when you know you're not the only one, and there are places, and it's normal, Yeah.
And are you reachable as well? Do you take clients?
I am seeing clients, although at the moment I'm probably at my capacity, but I do see therapeutic clients at the moment. I also do an Instagram account called steppingthrough.com.au, or it's a website as well. And so that has some information for step parents and their partners around how to navigate what can be a really difficult and at times lonely journey.
Absolutely.
If there was a couple of things that you would want someone to be left with after this chat, what would it be?
For the step parent?
Yeah.
I think don't be afraid to allow your partner to have one-on-one time with the kids. Not everything needs to be a big family event. Take the time to look after yourself in terms of doing things that you enjoy, be it go to the gym, the sauna, catching up with your girlfriends. Prioritise some one-on-one time with your partner. If you and your new partner don't get through it, the step family ain't going to survive. So you do need to prioritise your relationship as much as you need to work on the relationships within the family as well. And get some supports and the appropriate type of support and validation, and arm yourself with knowledge.
We'll put a lot of that information that you gave us in our
show
album
notes for sure.
Yeah.
Album notes, I like that.
In the album notes.
Will there be photographs as well?
And it's cooler.
Sounds smart.
Because we've got a good album cover on our thing. a lot of work went into that.
Rachel, thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you for, tending to those very sensitive places in families and, working with the kids. And as I said earlier, I'm a child of a divorced family and I know the pain of what that's like. So it really means the world to me that there's people like you out there putting the books out and, helping families the way you are. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, it's always nice when someone leaves something with us. You've got a couple of books.
I know, beautiful.
How beautiful,
books.
right?
Beautiful books.
All right. Max's Divorce, Earthquake, and Harriet's Expanding Heart.
Yeah.
Love it. You okay?
Yes. Yeah. That just really moved me how I don't talk about coming from a divorced family that much.
I don't know that you ever talk about it.
Right.
I mean, you're lucky though, because your mum and dad
are good mates.
Are good mates.
Really good mates.
And everything's
it was,
good.
But it's very, I was very little, but it's still very vivid, that feeling of, what do you mean? This is not happening anymore between the two of you. When it talks about an earthquake, it really is an earthquake for a child. And it's so, it's hard for everyone because the guilt that parents go through as well when they feel that they've, the marriage is broken down and you've got children involved. And yet I think another side of that is that you shouldn't stay together for the children. Like, I don't think that is a good way to go either, because I'd rather a child be out of a toxic house than having to deal with a divorce. Having two healthy parents in separate houses is much better.
Yeah. There's so many permutations of it, isn't there? There's so many ways to go, and Rachel has given some really good tips on how best to navigate.
Yeah.
Which, as I said, they'll all be in the show notes.
Yeah.
So I found it really really informative. It was great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Amazing lady.
All right, that's all we've got for you for today. I'm glad you're okay.
I am. Yes. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.